Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Elise Moreau had always been a woman accustomed to the world obeying her. Born into a family whose fortunes stretched back generations, she had grown up in the hushed salons of luxury hotels and private clubs, where conversations revolved around prestigious names, vintage investments, and private jet travel. She knew the codes of power and luxury by heart, and above all, she knew she must never show the slightest weakness. Her mother, an icy woman with a stern gaze, had instilled in her from childhood that wealth was a shield against the world, and that this fortress had to be maintained by dominating anyone who might threaten it. Following this logic, Elise had learned to despise those beneath her, without ever questioning it. Her arrogance was not born from a vacuum, but from a system and an education that had locked her into a rigid and elitist vision of society. That morning, Elise was in an impatient mood, as she always was when she decided to treat herself to a relaxing moment in a new place. Le Jardin d'Aubigny had been recommended to her by a colleague, boasting authentic and refined cuisine in an elegant setting. But Elise, true to form, didn't care about fame. What intrigued her most was the fact that this restaurant wasn't part of a large chain or a well-known hotel group. This independence, this lack of conventional luxury, made her wrinkle her nose. A black woman owning a restaurant? In her mind, it sounded like a risky bet, an anecdote rather than a lasting success. As she stepped through the door of the Jardin d'Aubigny, the gleaming hardwood floor, crisp white tablecloths, and dim lighting greeted her. Elise allowed herself an appraising, almost military-like glance. Every detail was scrutinized, like a general inspecting a battlefield. The servers in sober attire, the carefully spaced tables, everything seemed well organized, but in her eyes, still far from her usual standards. Marie arrived then, a young woman with a steady smile and measured gestures. At 30, she had had to fight to build what today shone around her. Raised in a modest neighborhood, confronted from a young age with discrimination and prejudice, she had drawn quiet strength from her resilience. Her dream, this restaurant, was the fruit of long years of saving, sacrifice, and a fierce determination to prove that her talent and worth had nothing to do with her skin color. But Elise didn't see this story, nor this struggle. She only saw the waitress in front of her, ready to take her order. Without a glance, without an ounce of curiosity or respect, she announced her choice in a firm, authoritative voice. Marie, polite, tried to slip in a few suggestions, but Elise cut her off with an impatient gesture. The meal arrived. Elise poked a fork into the risotto, grimaced, and immediately felt a dull annoyance rise within her. The texture didn't match her expectations. She didn't try to understand, nor calmly ask for another preparation. No, her frustration took over. Standing up abruptly, she attracted everyone's attention in the hushed room. "What the hell is this deplorable service?" Elise exclaimed, her clear, icy voice crossing the room like a clap of thunder. All eyes turned toward her. Her tone echoed against the walls adorned with warmly colored paintings, abruptly breaking the usual gentle atmosphere of the place. "Are you kidding me?" she continued, her eyes burning with anger and contempt. "Do you think I'm going to pay for this?" Marie, unperturbed despite the brutality of the attack, took a step forward. Her face remained serene, almost gentle, yet her eyes revealed a restrained determination. "Madam, I'm sorry the dish didn't suit you," she said calmly, inclining her head slightly. "May I offer to replace it?" But Elise's response was an insurmountable wall. Her anger swelled like a storm, her arrogance transforming into a torrent of bitter words. "Replace? You call that service?" she spat, crossing her arms. "You're incapable of doing your job properly. It's shameful. A little professionalism wouldn't hurt." She raised her voice, emphasizing each word as if to ensure no one could ignore her contempt. Then, without restraint, she moved on to more personal attacks. "Honestly, how did you even get hired here? You don't seem to understand what a real job is. And with the way you're doing things, maybe you should go back to school or change careers. This restaurant should wonder how it kept you for so long." Marie's face closed for a moment, her eyes darkening, witnessing the hurt these words had caused within her. But she didn't respond. She knew that responding immediately would only make the situation worse. And above all, she refused to lower her own level of humanity to match the baseness of the insult. The atmosphere around them had changed. The customers, who had been immersed in their conversations or their food, had fallen silent. Some exchanged glances filled with compassion, others with discomfort, even silent indignation. They understood what this spectacle signified: a person publicly humiliated due to prejudices deeper than this single plate. But no one moved, neither to defend Marie nor to calm Elise. Inertia hung heavy in the air, perhaps out of fear, perhaps out of habit, or out of an unease too difficult to face. It was then that Elise turned her head in an annoyed gesture, looking for someone in charge or a witness to rally to her cause. But her gaze froze. A few meters from her table, elegantly framed above an ebony cabinet, a large photograph dominated the wall. It showed a smiling woman, upright, proud, standing in front of the restaurant's facade, in the golden light of late afternoon. The caption, simple but striking, was written in gold letters. Marie Dupont, founder and owner of Jardin d'Aubigné. An icy silence fell over Elise's mind. Her mouth parted slightly, but no words came out. Her eyes, wide with surprise, darted from the photo to the woman standing before her, the woman she had just publicly belittled. She took a step back, her fingers trembling, as if she had just discovered a truth too heavy to bear. You're the owner?" she stammered, her voice cracking, almost unrecognizable. It was as if she'd just seen a ghost. Marie nodded slowly. Her calm was intact, but in her eyes shone a soft, firm, indomitable light. She wasn't gloating. She wasn't savoring this woman's embarrassment. She was simply there, fully herself, anchored in the truth of her existence. "Yes, madam. I'm the one who built this place, stone by stone, idea by idea. I'm the one who ensures the quality of the dishes, the warmth of the welcome, and the soul of this place every day. I'm the one who brings this restaurant to life. And this dream." Her voice wasn't sharp or vindictive. It was calm, confident, and that was precisely what made Elise's shame unbearable. All the words she'd uttered earlier came rushing back to her like slaps in the face. "How did you get hired here? Go back to school. You are incapable of doing your job." Every sentence echoed in her head, but now with a different voice, her own, and she hated herself for it. The room, too, seemed suspended in a silent stupor. A few customers murmured quietly. Some looked at her disapprovingly. Others looked down, uncomfortable at having watched this scene without intervening. The weight of the moment was palpable. Elise felt heat rise in her cheeks. It wasn't anger this time. It was shame. A deep, uncomfortable, burning shame. Her heart beat faster, and she felt as if she were suffocating in her own skin. Her whole world, her superiority, her certainty of being on top, had just cracked before a truth as simple as it was undeniable. Respect cannot be bought. I'm sorry," she finally whispered. But the words were fragile, barely audible. "I didn't know." Marie then approached, gently, without harshness. She placed a light hand on her shoulder. This simple gesture, imbued with rare humanity, made Elise falter more than any reproach. "This isn't the first time someone has come here with preconceived ideas," Marie said gently. "But it's never too late to learn to look at things differently, to respect them, to see beyond appearances." There was a quiet strength in her voice, a nobility that came neither from money nor status, but from the truth of her journey. She had nothing to prove. She existed, standing with dignity, in the face of the one who had tried to belittle her. Elise lowered her eyes. Her lips trembled. She felt tears welling up, but she held them back. This was no time to seek indulgence. That day, in that restaurant she had despised upon entering, she received a lesson in humility that no school, no stay in a luxury hotel, no amount of money could have offered her. She understood, for the first time, that true power is not in what you have, but in how you treat others. And this woman, whom she had taken for a simple waitress, had taught her a lesson that her whole life had forgotten. Greatness is recognized by silent dignity, not by the noise of arrogance. A few months later, the regulars of the Ebony Garden noticed a discreet but striking change in the restaurant's daily decor. Among the regular customers, a well-known figure now returned every week, sometimes even several times. Elise Moreau. Gone were the theatrical entrances, the expensive glasses worn like masks, the airs of superiority. From now on, Elise entered with simplicity, greeting the staff respectfully, waiting patiently for her turn, and thanking them for the service with sincerity. The wary glances of the first few weeks had transformed into curious smiles, then into friendly gestures. One day, as lunch service drew to a close, Elise lingered alone at her table. She surveyed the room, her gaze fixed on details she once would have deemed insignificant. The frames on the walls telling the story of an African heritage, the tired but proud hands of the waitresses, the living murmur of a place inhabited by effort, and above all, the calm presence of Marie, always attentive, always standing, at the heart of this world she had built. That day, Elise took a breath and asked softly, "Marie, can I speak to you? Outside of the ward? Just a moment." Marie, surprised but serene, accepted with a small smile. They settled into a quieter corner, near the large bay window where the spring light filtered through the foliage. Elise hesitated, playing with the cup of tea in front of her. Then, slowly, she opened up. She spoke of her childhood, trapped by the demands of high society, where everything was about appearances, performance, and prestige. She recalled her father, distant and rigid, her mother obsessed with social status, and that inner voice that had always told her to despise so as not to be despised. "I thought a person's worth was measured by what they wore, by the table they chose," she said in a faint voice. "I didn't know that true courage had another face." Marie listened to him without judgment. She told him in turn about her beginnings. The odd jobs, the sleepless nights, the rejections, the humiliations, the doors that closed as soon as she said his name with her southern accent. But also the discreet victories, the encouragement of a grandmother who taught her to dream without betraying herself, the recipes passed down by strong women, the loyal friends who believed in her. They talked for a long time that day, and it was the beginning of an unlikely friendship. Little by little, Elise was no longer content to be a client. She offered her help, her contacts in the business world, not to save or invest, but to sustain, for learn, for fix. She organized a charity evening for the benefit of young restaurateurs from disadvantaged neighborhoods. In collaboration with the Ebony Garden, she invited figures from the culinary world to discover Marie's cuisine, proudly defending this place she had once despised. She wasn't trying to redeem herself with a show. She was transforming her past shame into a lever for righteous action. For her part, Marie changed nothing essential. Always as upright, always as humble, she welcomed this friendship without fear, but without ever weakening her values. She knew what it had cost her to get there, and she also knew that sometimes a genuine transformation was worth more than 100 superficial excuses. Their exchanges became profound and sincere. They spoke about the world, about what needed to be changed, about what needed to be passed on. Elise's arrogance had faded, replaced by a thirst for truth. And Marie, far from becoming cynical, retained an indestructible faith that consciences could be awakened, one person at a time. Today, the Jardin d'Aubin is no longer just a restaurant. It is a symbol, a place where people come to eat, yes, but also to listen, to learn, to grow. Marie continues to watch over it with grace, like a guardian of memory and hope. And Elise, often seated at her favorite table by the bay window, reads, writes, and chats with the young waiters, ever more attentive to the world she had long ignored. Because that day, when she saw that face on the wall, she hadn't just discovered the identity of a woman. She had discovered hers.